Right friends, welcome back to main events, 13th week highlights. Prime Minister visits Belgium, then United States of America and Saudi Arabia. In Belgium, Prime Minister attended 13th India European Union Summit, but no breakthrough on starting the stalled negotiations on BTIA. BTIA is between India and European Union trade agreement which stalled for several years and there is no significant breakthrough. Prime Minister attended 4th Nuclear Security Summit at Washington DC, and this is Obama's initiative which was started in 2010, and this is the 4th Nuclear Security Summit. Then Prime Minister has gone to Saudi Arabia, and the need of the hour is to maintain delicate balance between Saudi Arabia and Iran. President's rule imposed in Uttarakhand. We are going to look at the constitutional provisions. Then defense procurement procedure 2016 unveiled. We are going to look at the pros and cons, how far it is going to increase the domestic production in defense. Then important cabinet decisions, then gender discrimination and religion. We are going to look at the entry of a woman in Shani Shingnapur temple in Maharashtra, and at the same time a case filed against triple talaq, and we are going to discuss about religion and constitutional provisions. Then if you look at the events around the world, Tin Kya became the president of Myanmar, but he will be technically the head, but real power will be with Aung San Suu Kyi. Then after around 10 years, specifically after 9 years, Tata decided to exit UK steel business, and the global scenario in steel has taken its toll, you can say. And board of trade meeting, basically government is worried about the falling exports. Exports touched abysmally low of $260 billion in 2015-16, and government wants to do something to increase exports. Let us look at the first event. Bilateral talks between India and Belgium. The Prime Minister visited 3 countries. The first country in his itinerary is Belgium. Prime Minister visited Brussels, and Belgium is a part of European Union as well as a Eurozone, highly developed country, and population is around 11 million. And the Prime Minister held bilateral discussions with Charles Michel, the Prime Minister of Belgium, and here Belgium and India together decided to work to fight terrorism, and then both the countries called for early adoption of a comprehensive convention on international terrorism. Till date, United Nations is not able to define what is meant by exactly terrorism, and United Nations is not able to ensure a comprehensive convention on international terrorism. And both the leaders decided that they will look forward for resumption of negotiations on BTIA. What is meant by BTIA? BTIA means broad-based trade and investment agreement. That is, trade talks between India and European Union started somewhere around 2007 but could not progress because of various reasons. Now both the Prime Ministers decided that they will look forward for the resumption of negotiations on BTIA. So not much breakthrough in this visit when bilateral discussions were held with the Belgian Prime Minister. Only thing is both the leaders decided that they will fight against terrorism. And if you look at other events, one important event when the Prime Minister was in Belgium pertains to the activation of remotely controlled India-Belgium ARIES telescope. What is meant by ARIES? ARIES is Aryabhatta Research Institute of Observational Sciences. This is near Nainital, and This is the largest fully steerable optical telescope in Asia, and it can be operated with the help of remote control from anywhere across the world. And important point is Belgium is associated with the development of this telescope, and this is situated at an altitude of around 2500 meters. This is one important development, and the remaining things you can go through this PPT. And if you look at the next major event in Brussels, the Prime Minister went to Brussels basically to participate in 13th India European Union Summit. Previous summit, 12th India European Union Summit was held in New Delhi, and after 4 years this is held in Brussels. And European Union, it is the grouping of 28 countries. And as a bloc, European Union is India's biggest trade partner if you look at it as a bloc, and largest export destination also at around $65 billion if you look at the European Union as a bloc of 28 countries. And in view of India European Union Summit, let us look at the major bottleneck. The major bottleneck is BTIA agreement. This is the trade agreement for which discussions are going on for the past 9 years. This was contemplated in 2007, and for the past few years no discussions took place. And what are the main reasons? The main reasons are India wants European Union to open up for India's services sector and allow free movement of people to deliver services, because all of you are well aware we are strong in services. What India wants is European Union should open doors for India's services sector without hindrance. What European Union wants? European Union wants India to reduce tariffs in sectors like automobiles, wines and spirit, and at the same time European Union is also critical about human rights violations in our country. So whatever the reason, these discussions could not go forward. So free trade agreement between India and European Union could not be envisaged for several years. With this backdrop, the Prime Minister attended 13th India EU Summit, and here most important development is joint declaration on counter terrorism to step up cooperation to counter radicalization. All of you are well aware, few days before the Prime Minister's visit, there were blasts at the airport as well as a metro railway station. The name of the railway station is Melbeek Metro Station, and in fact Prime Minister paid tributes to blast victims outside this metro station. So that country was also badly affected because of terrorism. In view of this, India and the European Union have gone for joint declaration on counter terrorism to step up cooperation to counter radicalization, because radicalization is the biggest problem which the world is facing nowadays. The second important point is both the sides agreed to start early negotiations for conclusion of BTIA. We have just now discussed what is BTIA, and for Lucknow Metro, European Investment Bank decided to give a loan of 450 million euro. So these are the developments of 13th India EU Summit, and the Prime Minister from Belgium has gone to Washington DC to attend the 4th Nuclear Security Summit. You may ask what is meant by Nuclear Security Summit and what is its relevance, why it is relevant. This is the initiative of Barack Obama when he became the president of the country. In early 2009, he became the president of United States of America, and subsequently in the year 2010, he started this concept. What is the main purpose of this Nuclear Security Summit? The main purpose of Nuclear Security Summit is the nuclear material should be protected properly. If it is not protected properly, it may go into the hands of anti-social elements like IS, and subsequently a small quantity of nuclear material can take thousands of lives. So, the Obama's initiative is whoever the countries maintaining the stockpile of nuclear material, please take proper precautions so that should not go into the hands of terrorists. That is the main purpose of this nuclear security summit. The second one was held at Seoul in South Korea, third one at The Hague, Netherlands, and now this is the fourth, probably the last summit, because Barack Obama is demitting office in January 2017. Right. So, with this backdrop, now you can see address by Barack Obama. Read into 2-3 sentences of Barack Obama. More world cooperation is needed to prevent IS groups, madmen and other extremists from getting nuclear weapons. What will happen if this nuclear material is stolen and goes into the hands of this ISIS? Then what will happen? Then ultimately it will lead to destruction. That is the main purpose of this nuclear security summit, as I have already told you. And the President of United States of America, Barack Obama, stated 2,000 tons of nuclear materials are stored around the world at civilian and military facilities, and just the smallest amount of plutonium of the size of an apple would kill thousands of innocent people. Right. And subsequently, our Prime Minister addressed this nuclear security summit, and at that juncture a progress report was circulated indicating what are the steps taken by India. India set up a permanent team of security and technical experts from multiple ministries and agencies that conducts various exercises simulating nuclear smuggling. Second one is India phased out the use of highly enriched uranium and built a database of all radioactive sources in the country. So, India is keeping track of all radioactive sources. This is the note circulated, or you can say progress report circulated at the summit. These are the salient points of the note circulated, and salient points from PM's address. PM categorically stated, state actors working with the nuclear traffickers and terrorists present the greatest risk to nuclear security. The Prime Minister stated about state actors. You may ask, what are the state actors? Probably Pakistan is in the mind when the Prime Minister stated that state actors working with the nuclear traffickers and terrorists present the greatest risk to nuclear security. The Prime Minister also stated that terrorists are using 21st century technology, and the Prime Minister also stated that all the countries must abide by their international obligations. And you may ask a pertinent question whether the summit has served its purpose or not. Absolutely, the answer is no, because the highest stockpile of nuclear weapons is maintained by Russia with around 7,300. Russia and USA account for more than 90% of nuclear weapons in the world, or you can say around 90% of nuclear weapons in the world. But Russia is conspicuous by its absence, and under the circumstances not much purpose could be served with this, but it will definitely create a lot of awareness among the nations to protect nuclear material away from the terrorists. Right? So, this is all about a nuclear security summit, and subsequently Prime Minister visited Saudi Arabia. Why Saudi Arabia is important for us? Saudi Arabia has got around 3 million Indian expatriate workers. Around 3 million workers. All of you are well aware, around 7 million workers are in West Asia region, and out of 7 million workers, 3 million workers are in Saudi Arabia only. Majority of them are from Kerala, and a substantial percentage are in blue collar jobs. They are the small jobs like construction workers, like plumbers, like carpenters, like housemaids. So, these are all called blue collar jobs, especially working in construction industry. And the foreign remittances from Saudi Arabia constitutes a substantial portion to India. right? And India and Saudi Arabia signed 5 agreements to boost bilateral cooperation, and most important one is sharing of information related to money laundering and terrorist financing, most important. And subsequently the Prime Minister interacted with the Saudi women IT professionals at the first of its kind all women TCS center, and the Prime Minister also announced 24/7 multilingual helpline for Indian expatriates, and the Prime Minister announced 2 worker resource centers in Riyadh and Jeddah. This assumed significance in view of the fact there are several allegations of atrocities against Indian workforce in Saudi Arabia, and addressed gathering of L&T workers who are constructing metro line. And Prime Minister also presented a replica of the Cheraman Juma Masjid of Kerala to the Saudi King Salman, and this mosque is in Thrissur district of Kerala and believed to be the first built by Arab traders in 629 AD, and at the same time Saudi Arabian government honored Indian Prime Minister with the country's highest civilian honor, the King Abdulaziz Sash, and this was presented by the Saudi King Salman, right? So with this the Prime Minister's visit to 3 countries ended. And here the pertinent question is, can India is able to maintain balance in diplomatic relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia? We are discussing in news analysis. Please listen to news analysis, because maintaining balance in the politics of West Asia is very much essential for India, because in West Asia, Saudi Arabia and Iran are enter into murky geopolitics, and India should be quite away from those murky politics of West Asia, right? So let us move on to another important aspect, President's rule in Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand governor is Krishna Kant Pal, and all of you are well aware Uttarakhand is in the northern part of India and it is 27th state. It was created from northern part of Uttar Pradesh, and this is also known as Dev Bhumi because of Char Dham, Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri, Yamunotri. Capital is Dehradun. Don't forget the judiciary or the High Court headquarters is Nainital, and official language is Hindi. And I would like to deal briefly what are the constitutional provisions, because the matter is now with Uttarakhand High Court at Nainital, and we will discuss at length subsequently in news analysis about imposition of President's rule under Article 356. And for the time being in the lecture part, just look at what is constitutional provision with regard to imposition of President's rule. Article 356 clearly says that President's rule can be imposed in a state if there is failure on the part of the state government to act in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. If the state government is not able to run according to the provisions of the Constitution, or you can say there is a breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state, then President's rule can be imposed. And at the same time, Article 356(3) also says, proclamation imposing President's rule shall be laid before each House of Parliament, that should be laid before each House of Parliament, and shall cease to operate at the expiration of 2 months unless before the expiration of that period it has been approved by both Houses of Parliament. Imposition of President's rule under 356 can be done when the President feels that there is breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state, and at the same time within 2 months that is to be ratified by both the Houses of Parliament. This is as per Article 356(3). Under these circumstances, the matter is with Uttarakhand High Court at Nainital, and let us move on to the next issue. Most important, Defence Procurement Procedure 2016 unveiled. This defence procurement procedure is very important in the sense India is the world's largest importer, and second important point is even after 69 years of independence, we are not able to develop our own mechanism for development of various defense machinery and strategic equipments required for safeguarding our borders. We are dependent on imports. When we are dependent on imports, then we cannot maintain absolute security for the people of the country when we are dependent on the imports. And this is more relevant nowadays because the country is facing threats not only from state actors but also from non-state actors. Under these circumstances, indigenization of defense production is the need of the hour because we have to protect our borders with our own equipment, with our own infrastructure in defense. And this is the government manual. You may ask, what is defense procurement procedure? This is the governing manual for all defense procurements. And after 99 Kargil war, or you can say during 99 Kargil war, several glaring deficiencies were noticed, and this is part of the government's initiative to address the problem. And first defense procurement procedure was brought in 2002 and revised periodically, and the previous defense procurement procedure was in 2013, and now government revised, and this is based on Dhirendra Singh committee recommendations, and they replace DPP 2013. And most important aspect is it introduced a new category, indigenously designed, developed and manufactured platform. This is IDDM platform. Here, if the design is domestic, if the design is by our domestic engineers and scientists, then 40% domestic content is mandatory for classification as IDDM. If the design is not ours, if the design is by foreign firms, then 60% should be domestic content. Then only this can be designated as IDDM. So, this IDDM is the new concept altogether, that is indigenously designed, developed and manufactured platform. Then second important point is this contentious issue of offsets raised from present limit of rupees 300 crores to rupees 2000 crores. At present the limit is rupees 300 crores. What is meant by offsets? Offsets means if the procurement exceeds a certain limit. Previously it was rupees 300 crores. Now it is revised to rupees 2000 crores. If the procurement exceeds a certain limit, then 30% they have to invest in our country. This is basically intended to give boost to domestic manufacturing, but it has run into several problems. Now the defense minister revised it from 300 crores to 2000 crores of rupees. Then third one is Make Indian. Certain provisions are given basically to ensure more funds and more interest to be taken by the domestic firms in research and development. Overall, the policy will give boost for Make in India. And second important point is greater role for private sector in innovation. Having said this, I would like to comment what are the positives, what are the shortcomings I have given in this PPTs. The positives are, it is a step forward in increasing participation of India's private sector in military manufacturing. Second one is, it has got several features for improving indigenous procurement. This creation of IDDM category, these are all the things which are expected to bring in substantial investments in research and development. And it is also expected that the scientific talent in India is expected to develop cutting edge technologies in India. More emphasis on MSMEs and Make in India. So, these are the positives of this defense procurement procedure, but there are several shortcomings. The most important shortcoming is strategic partners and partnerships was not notified. Under strategic partnerships, select Indian private companies will be given preferential status in major defense projects, and government is not able to decide this is the biggest drawback. Second important point is the need of the hour is to have indigenous military industrial complexes, because defense equipment is of a strategic importance for the country. You cannot depend on import of defense equipment, and India unfortunately is importing around 70 to 80% of its defense needs from foreign countries, and the solution for it is develop indigenously military industrial complexes in our country. But not much in this direction, and at the same time overall you can say it is only an incremental step for indigenization, but not up to the required standards. Fourth one is, as the imports may continue to be substantial, it may not reduce the endemic problem of corruption in defense procurements. All of you are well aware, corruption is the biggest problem in defense procurements, and this may not eliminate corruption because for years to come we may be dependent on still imports, maybe with some reduction. So these are the shortcomings. Most important is this military industrial complexes are to be developed in this country so as to make countries self-reliant in defense production. Right friends, if you look at important cabinet decisions, government liberalized rules for administratively allotted spectrum where market determined prices are not available. When market determined prices are available, previously government allowed spectrum sharing and spectrum trading, and now government has come up with some guidelines when administratively allotted spectrum do not have any price. Under these circumstances, this most recent reserve price will be taken, and for administratively allotted spectrum also this spectrum sharing and spectrum trading will be allowed. Second important point is lot of freedom was given to procure crude oil on their own without government interference. Right, like that, the remaining things I have given here. One more important aspect is increasing the limit of financing for Exim Bank with the consortium of banks in Iran from 900 crore to rupees 3000 crore. This assumed significance because India's trade relations with Iran may increase because of recent elimination of sanctions on Iran by the Western powers. Then another important point, gender discrimination and religion. Here, certain religious practices in almost all the religions, certain religious practices or certain religious doctrines, or you can say certain religious conventions are coming in the way of constitutional provisions. Now there are two such cases of gender discrimination. One case pertains to Hindus. Bombay High Court recently allowed entry of women to Shani Shingnapur temple. Entry of women was barred for the past 400 years into Sanctum Sanctorum, and now based on Bombay High Court verdict, these women are being allowed into Sanctum Sanctorum of Shani Shingnapur temple. Similar case arose from Muslim religion. A woman from Uttarakhand by name Shayara Bano filed a petition in Supreme Court arguing that divorce through triple talaq should be declared unconstitutional, and these type of religious conventions or religious doctrines, both the religions, are in fact leading to gender discrimination, and one case pertains to Hindus and other one pertains to Muslims. And Indian Constitution specifically outlaws gender discrimination, but certain religious conventions are against this principle. And if you look at the issue of a present status in India and abroad with regard to triple talaq, if you look at India, a high-level committee was constituted by the Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2012 by the UPA government, and it recommended specific amendments to the Muslim Marriages Act of 1939, and it also suggested mandatory maintenance to the wife and children in case of divorce or separation. And if you look at the triple talaq, this is banned in some Muslim countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Tunisia, Algeria, Iraq. And recently Vice President Muhammad Hamid Ansari stated, we have to look at the aspect whether a more complete separation of religion and politics might not better serve Indian democracy. So, in his viewpoint, religion should be separated from the governance, or you can say religion and politics are to be separated, right? So, under these circumstances, we have to wait and see how the government reacts in future. If you look at the events around the world, Tin Gyab became the president of Myanmar, and the country is under military rule since 1962, and Aung San Suu Kyi's NLD won spectacular victory, but because of constitutional provisions, she cannot become the president. Tin Gyab is president, and in ministerial capacity, Aung San Suu Kyi will enjoy real power in the country. Right friends, if you look at economy and banking, Tata decides to exit UK steel business. All of you are well aware this Chorus Steel of Europe was purchased by Tata Steel somewhere around 2007 when the steel industry was in boom at the time. And other important acquisitions of Ratan Tata include this Jaguar Land Rover, this is automobile company, PRE Hotel in New York, Tetley Tea. These were prominent acquisitions of Ratan Tata, and now Tata decided to exit the steel business in Europe, and it bought Chorus Steel for around $30 billion in 2007, and it employs around 15,000 in Europe. And if you look at the profits and losses of Tata Steel from their global operations recently, for the year 2014-15, this Tata Steel incurred a loss of 3,955 crores of rupees. So, what are the reasons for exit from Europe? First and foremost is the global downturn. Steel is not performing well for the past few years, that is one point. Second important point is excess capacity was created in China, because of which China is dumping around the world their steel products. And unfortunately, there are less protectionist measures in United Kingdom. If you look at India, India sometimes imposes this duties like safeguard duty, anti-dumping duty when it feels that there is a case in point, but United Kingdom has less protectionist measures. That is another reason why Tata decided to sell Chorus Steel, right? So, this is the decision which is required at this juncture, and please don't forget, China produces around 50% of world's steel production, and China created excess capacity, and that is creating problems in steel industry across the world. And if you look at the Tata Group, Tata Steel was started in 1907 by Dorabji Tata, and it has got its subsidiaries Tata Steel Europe, Tata Steel Thailand, and then Nat Steel, and now finally it decided to come out of Chorus Steel. Board of Trade meeting, some key aspects. Board of Trade, basically this is to look at giving more impetus for exports, and if you look at the performance of exports for the past 3 years, please look into this. 2013-14 around $314 billion, then 2014-15 almost static at $310 billion, came down to $260 billion in 2015-16. There is a drastic reduction of around 16% in exports in 2015-16. Under these circumstances, this Board of Trade meeting was held, and this is headed by Minister for Commerce and Industry, and Nirmala Sitharaman attended this meeting as in the capacity of head of Board of Trade. Several industrialists also participated in this, and falling exports is the biggest worry for India, and the ministry will strive for getting priority sector lending status for export credit. Then removing regulatory provisions for smooth functioning of Exim Bank and ECGC. You may ask, what is Exim Bank? Exim Bank is the bank established to support various exports, imports related business in the country, and then ECGC is basically like insurance to take care of losses and other problems related to exports. So, this Exim Bank, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, certain regulatory provisions are coming in smooth functioning of these two institutions, and government has told that they will remove these regulatory provisions. Then reviving SEZs and giving priority to MSMEs. At the same time, promotion of exports of organic products is also enunciated by the Commerce and Industry Minister. Whatever the reason, fall of exports by 16% is one of the steepest in the world, and India must be worrying a lot because of fall in exports by around 16%. Right friends, please listen to other modules. One is news analysis. We deliberated on the need for maintaining balance between Saudi Arabia and Iran when it comes to the relations, that is diplomatic relations by India. And please listen to SNT, where we deliberated on genetic modification and other aspects. Right friends, have a nice day. Thank you.